If you watched my last stream on Saturday, then you've probably already seen this match. But if you missed it, you're in for a treat. And by the end of proceedings here, you might be mistaken in thinking that I was actually playing the Stalingrad the entire time, but no. This is the legendary tier IJN Super Heavy Cruiser Yoshino. And like the Stalingrad, it does have 9 305mm guns. So does the Tier 7 Azuma, by the way. Unfortunately, these days, Yoshino is not obtainable. It was released into the game as some sort of special ship in some special event. I want to say some Christmas event, maybe a couple years ago. It wasn't widely obtainable. I believe you had to get some sort of temporary currency to get it, and as a result, it's a fairly rare ship at the tier. But the Azuma at tier 7 is basically the Yoshino. It's got essentially the same guns. The big difference is it does not have the torpedoes Yoshino has, and those torpedoes are going to come in handy as this battle progresses. But if you don't own the Yoshino and you want to get something sort of like it, you can go with the Azuma. Now, before I played this game, I put the Ultra Weeb Commander Nachi on the Yoshino. Can't remember if she is Arpeggio or if she's BA, I don't know. In any case, she's got a skill in the third row of skills, which I've got highlighted here, that improves the AP penetration angles, as well as the AP penetration and the AP damage. And apparently with this Nachi person, the Yoshino becomes as effective of a cruiser killer as something like the Stalingrad. I didn't think such a thing was possible until I played this match, but take a look at the matchmaking. There are a total of only 4 battleships in this legendary tier match, 2 on each team, and then 1 destroyer. So that means there's 6 cruisers to deal with here, starting with HMS Defense, where the results with the AP against his bow, they sort of went a little too far forward. They weren't great, but behold the Dalian, who decides to smoke up directly in front of us. We've got a beat on his last position, and, well, there's a blind shot, a dev strike, triple citadels, our first kill of the game. I saw that and I thought, wow, maybe Yoshino's got something going for it with this Nachi person. Is this the best cruiser killer at legendary tier? Well, the jury's still out on that verdict. Let's see how things go. Meanwhile, as the enemy Dalian goes down, one of our cruisers on the other side of the map goes down, so things are pretty even right now. On top of that, we've got our solitary single destroyer inside of the Alpha Cap looking like he might flip it, and the enemy team has just flipped Charlie. We know there's a defense and some other cruiser in that direction. The destroyer is on the other side of the map, so we wouldn't really necessarily have to worry about a torpedo threat if we were going to push in. But pushing in seems inadvisable right now. Whatever cruiser is inside of the cap is still benefiting from Dalian's smokescreen, and defense out there has pretty big guns. Plus there's this guy on the flank, a Venezia. If we push in, we'll be caught in a bit of a hopeless crossfire. So what I wanted to do was go back toward the center of the map. The cruiser inside of the cap is spotted. It's a Des Moines. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, well, if we can get back more toward the Delta Cap, perhaps we can get some shots on that guy. It wouldn't really do to push into a kiting Venezia or a kiting defense. That's not what you want to do, generally speaking, is push into ships that are sailing away from you and give them the advantage. We see Worcester out there momentarily and decide to take a shot. Long range shot all the way across the map near the end of our range, and the results aren't too great. Over pen, regular pen. But where is Des Moines? Can we get some eyes on him and maybe make good on our plan? Kiting away here, taking some shots from defense. Nothing on this side of the map is spotted. Our only destroyer has been dispatched in the Alpha Cap, and the enemy destroyer apparently has free reign over there. Colbert, a cruiser with 32mm armor plating all over its hull for reasons unknown. Not overmatchable by anything except the likes of Yamato, but Always remember, overmatch and AP penetration are not the same thing. 32 millimeters of armor is not impressive as overall protection for AP, which is why the Colbert takes 2 citadels there. Where is that Des Moines? We're spotted now. There he is. Broadside, Des Moines Citadel is also easily accessible, unlike most American heavy cruisers. One shot's all it needs for another devastating strike. That's two. Two devastating strikes with two instances of triple citadels, once on the Dalian, once on the Des Moines, and Colbert broadside to us. My gosh, the paid actors in this match. Another dev strike. What is that? 3 dev strikes with the Yoshino. Was that triple citadel again? I actually missed it there. Yeah, so the Yoshino's 305 millimeter AP with Nachi at the helm is pretty effective when it comes to dealing with enemy cruiser broadsides. Even slightly angled with this commander, it will pen. I can't imagine what the results would be if we put this thing on Azuma. We're going to have to try that next because Azuma is at least obtainable for global XP in the store. So anybody with enough global XP can get that ship. I don't know about this commander. Perhaps the commander will be released again in some future update. They usually bring content back like they did recently with the Transformers. The big problem there, though, was that you could only get the Transformers commander you were after. You could only guarantee it by buying a really expensive bundle. One for either 18,000 or another for like, I don't know, 30,000 doubloons. Can't remember the exact price. Hopefully that wouldn't be the case if they re-release this commander and you would be able to get it with just one flat doubloon price. I don't know. In any case, I think that's the reason we have 10 citadels here. The AP on its own is pretty good, but I always thought Yoshino, the main power was the HE. And the HE parameters are really good. It's got a great fire chance, it's got a strong alpha, and, it can perform the typical role of the IJN cruiser, which is usually as a kiting cruiser, spamming HE, and perhaps spamming torpedoes in its wake. Yoshino can do all of that, but it's also got the power of this AP, which is not something that you associate most IJN cruisers with. The AP performance is more reserved for the battleship line. And so you could consider this thing perhaps a mini Yamato. I think people have called it that in the past. Wasn't exactly sure why, but maybe these 10 citadels are the reason why. At this point, the game is pretty much in our favor. There's 6 ships on the blue team, despite the fact that we lost our destroyer early on, versus 3 ships on the red team, one of which is their destroyer. And still, they are losing. The destroyer, by the way, is spotted retreating into the Bravo cap. We didn't even get a chance to look at him and take shots. We know the last 2 remaining enemy cruisers are somewhere on this side of the map, and we've got 3 kills. There's 3 ships left, so there's definitely a chance to get the Kraken. Now we're going to approach the cap, which was taken by the Des Moines so long ago, and enter it. Let's see what happens here. There is one of the cruisers, Venezia. Okay, we know his location, but the defense was last spotted sort of pushing into the flank. And now the cap is taken, or the cap is contested, rather, by that defense. At the time I was playing this, it was on a stream. And, it's a little bit difficult to maintain perfect game awareness and respond to the chat and things of that nature while you're streaming. So I don't think I noticed that the cap was contested because I was very surprised as I came around this corner trying to line up a shot on Venezia here and probably not getting great results. I was a little bit surprised by the appearance of defense. Had no idea he would pop out if I turned that corner there. Could have known that by the fact the cap was contested, but it's okay. We've got our torpedoes in the water, and we score our one and only torpedo hit of the game on defense, giving us the high caliber and 133,000 damage. Now, defense has battleship-sized guns himself, 356, I believe, larger than our guns, and those things I believe, have improved penetration angles, which is why he citadels the ever-loving crap out of us, but we return the favor with a citadel through his slightly angled stern. That's 148,000 damage, 4 kills, and 12 citadels for the Yoshino. The only thing that's missing is a 4th dev strike, but maybe we can get that on the Venezia. He's a little bit out of our range now, so we're going to have to turn and try to pursue him. Those torpedoes there might actually hit him, though. I don't think they do, but I believe Yoshino has the 20-kilometer torpedoes as an option. They're mostly useless, of course. They're sort of potato bait. The 20 km torpedoes, I believe they have a detectability range in excess of 2 kilometers by sea, which means they're ultra conspicuous and get spotted further away than any other torpedo in the game, which gives the target ample time to dodge. You have to really not be paying too much attention or get profoundly unlucky to get hit by these torpedoes at maximum range, but as you saw, against defense, they do a good amount of damage. However, the bread and butter of this ship, as with most ships, is of course the guns, and apparently the AP specifically. I think we've shot HE once in this entire match. We got 2 fires for our troubles, so you can kind of see the power of the HE there. But my gosh, this AP is something else. You could mistake this thing for the Stalingrad. There's Venezia smoking up. Another blind shot attempt like the one against Dalian earlier, but we don't get a sequel to that wonderful film. Only 1 penetration, 2 ricochets, and Venezia is concealed, at least for now. We're spotted too, potentially by the Shima, or maybe our smoke firing penalty is bad enough that defense sees us, or Venezia rather. Don't think that's the case. Venezia fires back, results are ineffective. We are dark now, so that means Shima's not within our detectability range of 10.6. In fact, he's very far outside of it. He must have been the one spotting us there at the end of our gun range. We don't have to worry about him at all. All we have to consider is Venezia. And how do we get our Kraken? Well, Italian smoke screens don't last for very long, and as soon as this one dissipates, I expect Venezia will be spotted. There he is, and he hasn't really changed his angle. Perfectly broadside to us, attempting to turn away, but, well, you cannot give the Yoshino any room. 2 more citadels, no devastating strike, but the Kraken unleashed, and 171,906 damage with the Yoshino. Now again, you might be watching this and have missed out on the Yoshino. That's unfortunate. I wish they wouldn't release ships like this the way they do. I honestly don't know why. Yoshino, as you've seen here, is a very effective cruiser killer, but I would not have previously put it on the level of something like Stalingrad. Let's say Stalingrad is probably the most powerful cruiser at Legendary tier, and the most powerful in the entire game, at least in my opinion. I would even go so far as to call it overpowered. Yoshino's not quite on that level, and yet you can get the Stalingrad for what, 2 million global XP? It's always constantly available. Yoshino never is, and I don't see why. I think this is a ship that a lot of people would enjoy, particularly if you're an enjoyer of the Tier 7 Azuma. If you're disappointed that you can't obtain Yoshino, well then you could obtain the Azuma, and you can get similar results. We're going to have to test that out next with Azerle Nachi, ideally not on a stream, but just in a recording session, and I'll be able to present you, hopefully, a video like that in the Azuma with this same commander at the helm. This, I thought, was very intriguing, this performance from the Yoshino. 3,665 base XP, and we weren't the only ones on our team with good XP results either. We got blessed with a competent blue team, a rare enough thing, so count your blessings when they occur. Hope you enjoyed this video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.